Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is going to be a video covering another new shape from Pulsar in 2025. This is a collaboration in their Pro Series line with the Susanto brothers, a pair from Valorant. And I do have to say that this, I think, is Pulsar's best symmetrical shape in their lineup right now, period. I think it's going to be a improvement over something like a Beast or a ULX Medium. And I do think that a lot of people are going to find more enjoyment out of this than the X2 as well as the X2H, which the X2H is obviously one of the most different things on the table. Now, to talk, though, about this Pro Series connotation, I do have to say, like, when you think Pro Series in the Pulsar lineup, just think that it's been made in collaboration with a professional player. This is not like a Pro Series build quality here that I think I have received on either the JVX or the Susanto brothers mouse. It just feels like a normal, typical build quality, nothing over the ordinary on my Susanto brothers mouse. When I talk about the JVX mouse, and since my impressions video or my unboxing, what have you, the JVX mouse, I think, has some of the worst side buttons that I've ever had on a Pulsar mouse. They feel literally horrible, and something that feels so bad that it just takes the build quality feel of the entirety of the mouse and just turns it into like a Tumu Pulsar experience. These side buttons are just atrocious in their general actuation feel, just not feeling crisp in any way, shape, or form. It's like a dull, pillowy hit, and then the post-travel is kind of a little bit too immense for me with these side buttons, making the entire mouse just feel really cheap and not the build quality that I expect from Pulsar. The X2H, the X2, the Susanto brothers mouse, like everything else feels fantastic. I've never had side buttons from them that feel this bad. And the scroll wheel also feels very dense. Mouse 3 just feels horrible to push in. And the overall shape of the JVX, it just didn't really click with me. I do think that I performed very well on it, and for an ergo, it is a kind of unique position on the market, but it just begins to feel more blobbish because of how narrow it is for an ergo. It doesn't have those normal ergo flares where every time you pick up the mouse, your hand, your grip feels consistent. I just felt my grip being too inconsistent on the JVX, so definitely not my most preferential mouse in Pulsar's lineup. Now, I will say that my experience with the Susanto brothers mouse is the complete opposite in what I feel about the shape. I think this is one of the best medium-shaped mice on the market right now. If you have large hands, I think it's going to work for you. If you have small hands, I think it's going to work for you. If you're somebody who is more inclined to use something like the X2 Crazylight, I will pull that out as well and show you guys the size comparison here as well. But the mouse really isn't that much bigger than something like an X2 Crazylight in the hand. It just feels higher and quite a bit more comfortable in comparison. When you compare it to the X2, you can see it really isn't that far off either from the regular size X2. So it's kind of a happy medium in between the two. But the nice thing about the Susanto brothers mouse is that the hump is more rounded. It's more rounded from the base of the mouse all the way through its back body to the peak of the hump, and the hump in general feels more rounded as opposed to more of a nipple targeted hump on the Pulsar X2, which feels just like this elongated hit right here, and how it's like just lower on the edges as you get to the sides of the mouse. Again, think more rounded on the Susanto, so feels more like a boob as opposed to a targeted nipple. I think a lot of people are going to like that quite a bit more. It feels more comfortable in the hand, and just overall quite a bit more of an enjoyable experience. It makes the mouse feel not as elongated as the X2, and it also feels higher, and like you don't have this dip towards mouse 1 and mouse 2 from the peak of the hump. The backside feels a little bit more rounded as well in comparison to the X2, and it does feel as though my thumb maybe has a little bit more room towards these side buttons, but it is very close in that regard. And the resting position of the thumb in comparison to where the side buttons are, about the same in comparison to the X2. Now, again, this backside is a little bit more rounded here in the back as well. And the thumb curve feels as though it swoops in nicely in its position from the butt of the mouse. I do think, like, in the size category, one of the hardest decisions would be like a Beast X or a ULX Medium in comparison to the Susanto mouse. But I do think that, like, if you're looking for a more comfortable experience, one that sits a little bit higher, I do think that there is a lot to be said about the comfort of the Susanto. Again, like in this mid body, it rounds out a little bit higher and just feels more kind of like palm filling and rounded compared to flat and then aggressively curving towards the front. I do find like my thumb kind of fills that bottom curvature quite nicely on both the Susanto as well as the Beast X, but I do find it just to be a lot more comfortable in this thumb curve. I get a little bit more contact around that curvature on the Susanto mouse. To me, like I'm playing at the same level, but I'm getting more comfort out of the Susanto. So right now, it's a pretty tough call which way I would go, but both of these mice do feel fantastic in the hand. I get great fingertip actuation with both of these if I want to with my size hands on either of these mice. And I could definitely easily claw either of these mice, just the Susanto, because it is a little bit smaller. It would be a little bit hard for me to get like bottom side button actuation. And the side buttons are like a little bit more close on the Beast X. Obviously, if you're going to be clawing these mice, you probably have smaller hands than me, so I don't think that would be too much of a problem. But both of these mice feel fantastic. Again, I just think that the Susanto is around that same size category, but a little bit safer, a little bit more comfortable, but also I just feel so locked in at the same time. It feels great. The coating on the mouse is, although it picks up a lot of stains and like watermarks and oil marks and stuff like that, the coating feels fine. I would just say like the weight at 48 grams, when I first picked up this mouse, I thought it was actually lighter than that. It feels like it's in the low 40s because of the density of the mouse when you pick it up. It actually feels really good. Pulsar opticals in mouse 1 and mouse 2, I don't have any complaints really. I feel like they could be a little bit better implemented, but no real complaints there. And when we get to the side buttons, after just testing the NP01S Ergo, like it's hard to really say that these side buttons are comparable. The Pulsar just feel quite a bit looser and just more like airy, but not in a good way. They're not as like tight, refined, crispy goodness that we get out of the Vaxi. It leads to a little bit to be desired with the side buttons on the Pulsar. I don't really care about that as long as they don't feel cheap and like they have a ton of post travel. And I don't get that here like I was getting on the JVX. So overall, the Pulsar Blue Encoder, Mouse 3, very spammable. Everything feels great here in terms of the overall build. And again, most importantly, that weight and the shape, I think, are going to be a hit for a lot of people for the reasons that I stated in comparison to the Beast. Again, more rounded, feels a little bit higher, feels like just a more comfortable experience, although being somewhat similar in terms of its general sizing. And then again, the rounded hump feeling quite a bit more comfortable and quite a bit better, more mainstream feeling than something like the X2 regular. If you're looking for a back hump, the X2H, I think, is still one of the best mice on the market right now that you can get for a back hump mouse. Feels exceptionally good, but obviously, again, very different than the Susanto Brothers mouse. It's going to feel more bulbous and more elongated in this back hump towards that bottom pocket of your palm. To me, again, it just rounds out real nice in the backside of my palm, whereas the Susanto Brothers mouse is just going to feel, again, just more gradual from like here all the way through your palm. And you guys were probably wondering about the Olaf. I mean, my daughter created that, and I have to give credit where credit is due. I mean, a true novel of artwork, a true Michelangelo. So I had to add that to the video here. But getting back to the Susanto mouse, this is a great mouse in terms of its general shape. I mean, it's going to feel familiar because there's other things that get kind of close to this, but I do think that it's a shape that's going to work very well for Pulsar. To me, it is a really good shape in terms of comfort as well as performance. It's hitting that happy medium, and it is something that I think actually adds to their lineup of symmetrical mice. It's different enough from the X2 as well as the X2 Crazylight and the X2H, and it's something that feels really good despite being familiar. So if you're looking for something truly unique, truly new and refreshing, I don't know that you necessarily get that here, but if you're looking for a great symmetrical mouse that performs well and is very comfortable, Again, like it's checking those boxes for me. So I think in terms of the overall build quality, the weight balance, the overall performance here, I'm just playing really well and I'm enjoying it personally. So that's going to be it for this one, guys. I hope it helped. If it did, please leave a sub to the channel and I'll see you guys in the next review. Peace.